I am JVN, Dr. Vanita Bhardwaj. As in last class we were discussing about the demand. In demand we were talking about complementary goods and substitution goods. Substitution goods are those goods we are using in place of each other, and complementary goods are using together. For example, substitution goods is tea and coffee, and complementary goods are car and petrol. So let's continue our next lecture. So today we are discussing about the consumer's money income. Consumer's money income is also effect on the demand of a commodity. If the price is remains same but the consumer's money income increase, in that situation, in first situation, consumer's money income is income 1, then quantity demanded by Q1, and when the consumer's money income increases in normal goods situation, their demand will be upward. That's why this is the positive impact of income effect is positive effect. That's why when the income of the increase, consumer's income is increased, demand curve is upwarding to right side. This is the positive slope. It means there is only increase in income, not changes in the price of the commodity and in the quantity of commodity. But income of a consumer is increased, so he will demand more quantity. This is the income effect is positive relation. When price is up, demand will up. When income will decrease, demand of a commodity will decrease. In inferior goods situation, we were talking about the normal goods. Now we are talking about the inferior goods. In inferior goods, that is the income effect is negative relation. When price of a consumer is less, he is demanding more than inferior goods. And when the income of a consumer increase, he is demanding inferior goods less than quantity. So in inferior goods, income effect is inverse relationship. That's why the demand curve is sloping downwards to right side. This is the income effect inverse relation. Income increase, demand decrease. Income decrease, demand increase. This is the situation of inferior goods. In this situation, demand curve is applicable in the inferior goods when incomes of a consumer is increased. And in normal goods, when income of a consumer is increased, demand curve is not applicable, because as income rises, he is demanding more commodities. Doesn't matter, changes is not taking place in the commodities price. Expectations about the future expectations. If a consumer is expectation that prices in near future will increase, he will produce, he will purchase in present scenario, because he is expecting that in near future prices will increase, so I should purchase now. And if he expected the prices in the near future will decrease, he will purchase in future and postpone their demand. This is the positive relation of the demand. When prices are less than and expected that prices in near future will increase, he will demand more commodities. And if he expected that prices in near future will decrease, he will demand less than. That's why demand curve is upwarding to right side. There is a future expectations effect is positive relation. Prices up in near future, he will demand presently more. If he expected in future prices will decrease, he will decrease his present demand. This is the demand positive relationship in the present scenario. Social and subjective effects on the demand. Social and subjective effects also important in the demand. It's depend on the subjective. A person's taste, fashion, subjects are subjective. You like it, you don't demand it. If you like a product, you will prefer to purchase it. What matter what is the price? And subjective sociologic effect is, if you are a BCom first year student, you will demand business economics books. If you are not BCom first year student, you will not demand business economics. If you are a student of BCom, BBA and MBA, you will demand business economics and you will read demand analysis. This is the sociological. If you are educated, you can read books, you will demand books. If you are not educated, you will not demand books, whatever the importance of the books. This is the sociological factor, and this is the subjective. Subjective in the sense your fashion, your preference, your taste, your priorities. These are effect on the demand. This is the law of demand. Till now we are talking about the what is desire, what is want, what is effective demand. Okay, now we are discussing about law of demand. Law of demand theory is given by the Alfred Marshall. Alfred Marshall gave this theory of law of demand. He said law of demand is applicable when the constant factors or assumptions are applicable. In demand, law of demand, if other factors are not constant, only changes must be in the prices. Okay, the assumptions must be applicable. If these conditions are applicable, then law of demand will be fulfilled. And if one of the condition is not applicable, demand curve will be not completely successful. First, consumer of the income must be constant. During demand, consumers changes must be take place on the price of the commodity. It will inverse effect on the price of the demand. Alfred Marshall says when prices up, demand will be decrease, and when price will be down, demand will be increase. This is the law of demand theory, which is applicable only the situation when the assumptions are applicable. It means when law of demand is applicable, only changes must take place in the price of the commodity. Other factors must be constant. The other factors is just like consumers' money income must be constant. There must be no changes in the consumer's money income. Second, price of the substitute and complementary goods. In last class, I have told you what is the substitution goods and what is the complementary goods. The easiest example is tea and coffee is substitution goods, and car and petrol is the complementary goods. Price of the substitute and complementary goods. If you are demanding a car, no changes will be take place in the prices of the petrol and the substitution goods. If you are buying to a car, you don't shift yourself to the bike. This is the complementary and substitution goods. You can use 4-wheeler in the place of 2-wheeler. This is the substitution and complementary goods. Prices must not change. Expectations about future price. Consumers law of demand successfully applicable when the future expectations about prices of a commodity must be not changes, not be aware about it. Psychological factors in the preference of the taste of the consumers, preference of the consumer. It's all effect on the demand curve. Sociological factors just like fashion or marital status. If you are fashionable, you will demand fashionable goods, and if you are married, you will demand sociological factors, marital goods, etc. If you are not fashionable, you are not fashion taking, you will be ignore about this, then law of demand will not applicable. State of the wealth must be constant during the law of demand will applicable. When law of demand is applicable, consumers wealth of state must be constant. He must be nor rich neither poor. Quality of the commodity must be the same, not take place any kind of changes in the quality of the product. Quality of the product is same. In that situation, if all these assumptions are applicable, Professor Marshall says law of demand will be definitely fulfilled. This is the relationship of law of demand. Prices up, demand down. Prices down, demand up. This is the law of demand which is applicable when the all these assumptions or constant factors will be applicable. This is the individual demand curve. Individual demand curve is a demand of a particular person. Particular person's normal tendency is when prices is 10 rupees, he will demand one quantity. When prices reduce, he will demand more quantity, though 2 units he will demand, and when prices is less more, he will increase his commodity, and less. When prices from 10 rupees to 2 rupees come, he will demand from 1 unit to 5 unit. When this individual demand curve we shows in the diagram, we can show in the diagram. This diagram, when digesting this table in the diagram, we can say individual demand curve. On OX Y axis, on Y axis we are showing price, and the OX axis we are showing quantity demanded by a person. This table when we show in the diagram form, we get the individual demand curve, a person's individual demand curve. In the demand curve, the quality of a demand curve is that he is sloping to right side up, downside, right side downward. Demand curve is always right side downward. If demand curve is not applicable, he will upward to right side. And in the market demand curve, when we add our individual demand added, it means this is the price of the commodity. These are the individuals A, B and C, and this is the total of the individuals. This is the market demand. When we summon or total the individual demand, we get the total market demand, because a product is demanding by the producing by for the whole economy, not for individual person. That's why first we study about the individual demand curve, and second we discuss about the market demand curve, because we are studying about business economics. In business economics, first we will study about the individual person, and after that business is running in the economy. So we discuss about the market demand, whole economy demand. So market demand is the total of individual demand. This is the first consumer, second and third consumer. Total of consumers is the market demand. When we show this table in the diagram, we can get the market demand curve. This is the OXY axis. On Y axis we showing prices, and on the OX axis we are showing quantities of the demand. When we show a diagram in the demand curve, we get the market demand curve. This is also sloping to right side downward. This is the market demand curve. Market demand curve is studied by the businesses, and individual demand curve is studied by the person, how he will purchase a product, why he is consuming. Demand curve is applicable because diminishing marginal utility law is applicable. That's why when the prices decrease, we increase our commodity demanded. If prices is high, we demand less than quantity, because diminishing margin, according to diminishing marginal utility, when we consume more units, we are getting less utility. That's why the law of demand is based on the diminishing marginal utility, and diminishing marginal utility theory is also given by the Alfred Marshall. Alfred Marshall is the professor of economics, which is given the theory of law of demand and the diminishing marginal utility. Thank you. If you have any query, please leave comment in the below.